Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Adam. Thanks for hanging out with me again today. And today we're going to take a quick look at a couple books that were recently sent to me by a very kind subscriber who also sent me this amazing buggy. So we're going to get to this at the end, but you know, that was a tremendous surprise. But in the box, he also included two books. Both of these books were published, copyrighted in 1986. They've been around for a minute. You know, you can just tell by the Hobby and Craft Shop price sticker on this one. It's been around for a while. But both of these books are written by Harry Higley. There is Completely Cars, and then there is the RC Car Bodybook. So these are just two of the books that were published by Harry Higley. So there is Harry's Handbook for Miniature Engines. So basically glow engines, mainly for flight, but I'm sure it had stuff in there for land-based RCs as well. There Are No Secrets. It's another plain book by Harry Higley. There is Master Modeling, and I believe, yeah, that was a Harry Higley. Then there's Tom's Techniques, which is another aircraft book. That was by Tom Ingram and Harry Higley. And then there was a Flying Around by Jim Harris, edited by Harry Higley. So evidently he was really into planes as well as cars. So these are the two specifically car books from him. So the Completely Cars book is, in a nutshell, it is every RC car action pit tip that has ever been published throughout the entirety of its career. You know, jokingly, but it literally covers everything. You know, assembly, modification, you know, it's talking about cutting down bolts and making sure that the threads are chased properly. There's a lot of information in here, and I cannot cover it all in a video. But we'll kind of glance through it and talk about it real quick. But the RC Car Bodybook, you know, this one is really neat. Both of them have a lot of great pictures. The Completely Cars is all black and white. This is 90% black and white, but there are some color photos in it. And we'll get into those, and I'll, you know, cover up this and show you something better looking. But the amount of cars he has in here is very impressive. There's RC10 Gold Pans, there's RC10 Pan Cars, Mugen Bulldogs, the Fox, the Frog, the Hot Shot. I mean, it's chock loaded with cars in both of these. But, you know, basically it is talking about, you know, for mainly Lexan bodies, you know, how to paint, how to cut, how to do all that. I am going to do a How Addam Paints video series very soon. I've got this car planned out, and we'll go over that in the video. So basically in the upcoming video series, it's going to be, you know, taking it from a raw shell to a finished car all in one series. It's probably going to be 2-3 videos. I'm not sure. Depends on how long they go. But this one is already past, you know, steps 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I've actually got another body shell that we're going to sit down and we're going to start from scratch and go through all the steps and show you how to do that. So I'm not going to dive too deep into this one. But you know, everybody out there has their own way of cutting it out, and the snap and score method, we'll cover that too. But, you know, I thought that was a fairly recent thing. No, it's in this book. You know, score the Lexan, bend it, snap it, you're good. It talks about using the body scissors, curved body scissors, coming back and sanding it smooth, using a hobby knife to trim up edges and stuff. Also shows using like a Dremel to, you know, notch out small areas in the body. It talks about, you know, when you have the clear body, you know, get it cut out to where it fits the wheel openings, and then set the body on, mark your body posts, and then drill out the holes for those. Now, on most modern cars now, your kit has, you know, little dimples in the body or little marks in the body to cut out. Back then, it was just a clear body. Didn't have protective film on it, didn't have any of that stuff. So a lot of this stuff you had to make up. And in this book, I see that, you know, he's mounting a roadster type body to an RC10 pan car. You know, that wasn't meant for that big chunking body. But he has these ginormous body posts. If anybody remembers those, they're the type that screwed up from underneath, and it was basically just a nylon bolt, basically. And it had a nut that you could screw down on there, and you would just drill through and put the hole for the body pin in it. It's got the typical RC10 mounts. It's got the tips in here, bending up the body clips so they're easier to get off. Putting the washer over top of it so it doesn't scuff up the body so fast. Let's see. He talks about different paints that you can use. Now, some of it I agree with, some of it I disagree with. He talks about, sometimes you can use like Rust-Oleum and stuff. Just don't. You can. I just wouldn't. Now, there are tricks to doing that. Basically, if you wanted to use a very specific color and it's not meant for polycarbonate, basically you can spray the clear polycarbonate spray paint underneath first, let that cure, and then spray your other color paint over top of that, and the color will shine through. The polycarbonate paint is bonded to the plastic, so it won't flake off, and then the other paint is just bonding to the existing polycarbonate paint. Still is not a great idea because it can still flake off, but that is how you kind of circumvent that thing. It shows if you already have a painted body, how to cut out the wheel wells. Talks about, how to modify the chassis if your body doesn't fit it quite well. Filing this down or cutting these pieces off that aren't needed to make things fit. Talking about, applying the tape, using different things to apply pinstriping tape and stuff like that to get nice tape lines. He talks about aftercare, after the body's painting on details on the outside. So like in this instance, he's painting running boards onto the body after it's been painted. Again, not quite suggested, but if you have polycarbonate brush on paint, you can do it. And you can do it with, spray paint. You spray a little bit in the cup and then you can brush it on. But, you're going to have a really shiny body with some dull paint on it. Talks about putting, pinstriping, panel lining. Then he gets into this really, really crazy, elaborate paint job with an RC10 body. And I'll show the up-close pictures of that. Shows you how to do flames. Shows you painting the interiors, and basically he does the same thing I do. Just blast it black with polycarbonate paint, and it just uses regular Tamiya paints or whatever on top of that, and then paint your driver figures in like that. But yeah, that's about, this whole book is just nothing but how to paint and detail out a body. And it talks about, gas powered stuff and the stuff you have to look out for that. But again, I'm going to do the whole paint series on that. So we're just going to show kind of what I've talked about in the pictures in there. Now this Completely Cars one, other than me sitting here for the next, 3.5 hours reading this to you and showing you every picture in here, it's going to be kind of lost on you guys. The way he writes these is, there's a page of text and a page of text, and then there's 4 pictures here, and then there's, another 8 pictures here. Well, some of the pictures are referenced over here, and because they're all numbered, so it's really kind of hard because you got to flip back and forth. But again, this is all about, what type of car do you want? What type of surface do you plan on driving it for? So it talks about picking out what kind of car should you get for your preferences, for your environment. You don't want to buy an on-road car if you live on a 5-mile dirt road. If you live in the middle of the city, maybe a giant, monster truck isn't going to be the best for you. Maybe you want something quick and nimble on the pavement. But he talks about, the different sizes, 12 scale, 10 scale, 8 scale, talks about the different engine sizes that you can put in it. What are the most popular, powertrains for them, whether it's electric or gas, your typical speeds that you can get off of them. And, some of them are a little bit exaggerated, and I'm sure, he's talking about 12 scale pan cars, 25 to 30 miles an hour, 10 scale, 25 to 30 miles an hour. A Monster Beetle isn't going to go 25 to 30 miles an hour out of the box. So a little bit of differences there. He's just very generic on the scales. But, talks about radio controls, choosing your first system. Do you want stick? Do you want the pistol grip? How much money do you have? The more money you have, the more options you have. And he goes through and explains all the different options about, dual rates, adjustable travel, exponential, servo savers, servo reversing, all that stuff. Now he gets into suspension and steering. So I'm actually going to sit down and read all this. I might actually be able to learn something from this. You know, he's talking about Ackerman principle and different types of suspensions, how the car turns, how the car turns with a differential, the different type of differentials, gear differentials, ball differentials, gears, balls, or none, electric motors, the speed controllers, the resistors, transmissions, bushings versus bearings, clutches and brakes on gas cars. Then it starts talking about the different bodies. So it covers the polycarbonate and, you know, the plastic hard bodies, the different types of chassis. So the aluminum rail versus the, you know, FRP plate and all that stuff, tub chassis. Talks about soldering, you know, goes through a whole different thing about soldering diodes and speed controllers and motor mounts, or motor wires, shortening wires. So then he has a whole chapter on practice, pit, and performance. So he's talking about, you know, what you need to do to practice to make you go faster, what you need to do in the pit to make you go faster, and what you can do to upgrade performance. And in here, he basically breaks it down to 4 things: strong, lightweight, well-aligned, and friction-free. Which, you know, there's technically more than that, but those 4 things will, you know, make a car very predictable. But then he also has one down here in all caps. Performance increasing changes require time-consuming thought, disassembly, and modifications to parts. That kind of still goes, you know. You're not going to be able to buy a just regular kit and be the fastest guy on the track. Now, unless you're that, you know, 0.1% that can just pick up anything and drive it like a madman, that holds true. So he also says practicing for assembly in the pit takes time and should be done during initial construction. So what he's talking about is, you know, if you bend a shock or break an arm or anything like that, you know, it all starts with you putting it together and knowing how everything goes apart, so you're not disassembling a whole bunch of extra stuff to replace that shock or replace that arm. You know, to be able to go in and, you know, once you're done racing, you do your marshalling. Once you're done marshalling, you have to go back to the pits and get that car fixed so you can get back in the next heat or, you know, next race or whatever. And you only have a finite time to do that. So you have to be efficient and understand your car to be able to do something like that. Then he goes into radio installation, you know, setting up, zeroing out, you know, bending your own linkages, setting up the linkages, making sure everything's zeroed out and installed properly. Then he does have a section in here about painting the body, which those are very simple painting. And then he starts talking about, you know, adjusting things to, you know, doing your front end alignment, talking about caster, camber, toe end, differential testing, you know, tightening or loosening the differential based on the track, ride height, hub clearance, tweak. So if you guys aren't familiar with tweak, I don't know much about it. I know the on-road guys are all about, you know, tweak stations and making sure when the cars are going around that they have the most contact patch. And, you know, if you're doing oval track, you know, you want a lot of pitch and stuff in the cars, so when you're going around corners, everything is touching the track as much as possible. But then on road, you know, you're going left and right, so you want those tires as flat as can be, so, you know, you're always having the best traction. Again, I'm not an on-road guy, I just kind of know the gist of it. Then he goes into stuff about batteries, storage capacity, charging information, heat, charger selection, different types of charging techniques. Then he goes into a brief chapter about glow engines, so fuels, plugs, the type of combustion, rough sizes of motors, 4 different scales, pipes, the starting them, adjusting the valves, setting the idles, maintenance. And basically, the maintenance is basically take your motor all the way apart, dunk it in chemical solvents, leave it there for a long time, and then just gob it up with 3-in-1 oil. So this is long before, you know, all the synthetic lubricants and special with the anti-gumming lubricants and stuff that you just kind of drip in the motor after it's done, cycle it through and you're good. You know, this is stripping it all down, soaking it in a solvent, putting 3-in-1 oil in, you know. Very interesting books. You know, again, without me sitting down and just reading them cover to cover to you, or flipping it page by page. So, you know, 125, 130 pages total in these 2 books. So we're just going to glance over them. But I hope you guys enjoyed the pictures along the way. There's a lot of really, really cool cars in here, a lot of really, really neat information in here. And at some point, if I have, you know, a bunch of stuff highlighted, once I get through and read these kind of cover to cover, I just kind of glance through them. Mainly, I did the responsible thing and just ooh and nod over all the cool pictures. You know, comic books for adults. But anyway, guys, like I said, I am going to get a full paint tutorial type thing. You know, don't take it for the gospel. You know, this is how I do it. But we have a brand new uncut body. So nothing, this is still packaged. So this one is, you know, this is going to be the end result. This is going to be the body we go through and, you know, show you how to do everything, how I go about doing everything, whether it's the quickest way, the easiest way, the smartest way. I doubt any of those, but I'm going to show you how I get it done. Anyway, guys, everybody out there, you guys be happy, be healthy, be safe, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Hopefully it's a paint instruction video or something. I don't know. I make all this stuff up. See you guys.